So I wanted to start off this video with a little bit of fan feedback that I've received from the last set of videos that I've done. And the feedback mentioned about highlights, B-roll. How come I don't implement them in my videos at least in terms of the NFL and 49ers videos that I do? And, you know, that's a very good point. That's a very valid point that some of you in the comment section have brought up in my YouTube videos. And I'll just say this, that I would love and appreciate to do NFL or 49ers like highlights, try to implement them. But the problem is that YouTube's copyright system is so broken. It is so broken that even less than 3 seconds of any of those, it would flag me for copyright. It would give me a copyright claim. Like, from past experience, like, I don't want to deal with it. I really don't want to deal with it. So if you just see me as a talking head for like more than 18 minutes or even more longer than that, like, I'm really sorry, but it's just like, I cannot deal with YouTube's copyright system. It may sound like an excuse to some of you, but it's just the honest truth. It is really just the honest truth. So I do apologize if there's no B-roll or like highlights that I can implement. It's just like YouTube's copyright system is so broken in modern YouTube. It's just like, it sucks. It really sucks. And I cannot take that risk. But anyway, let's talk about some football. Let's talk about some 49ers football, shall we? Because it's another week. Yes, it is. As the 49ers get ready to take on the Minnesota Vikings, they're the closers of week number 7 on Monday Night Football. Prime time, baby. Make sure you watch this game over Monday Night Raw. Like, no Monday Night Raw this week, ladies and gentlemen, please. Don't watch the Judgment Lame for the millionth time if they're the main event or the opening act in some random insertion match, or the stale repetitive man, the meaningless NXT Women's Champion. People keep overpraising that, oh, they're going to bump up in the ratings and try to take over the San Francisco 49ers on Monday Night Raw, Monday Night Football. No, she's not going to surpass my 49ers in the ratings, in the demographic, pal, in the quarter hour, whatever you want to use for statistical purposes. No, the man, Becky Lynch, is not going to surpass my 49ers in the ratings, pal. I can at least guarantee for this week. But anyway, in all seriousness, yeah, the 49ers are going to take on the Minnesota Vikings on Monday Night Football on the road, their second road game in this 2-game road trip. And for my 49ers, they're definitely in need of a bounce back. I mean, it's not the end of the world kind of bounce back, but in their first loss of the season, it was pretty ugly. It was pretty ugly because, you know, in week 6, they talked the talk pregame, but they could not walk the walk. They pretty much started a fight they could not finish in Cleveland because, yeah, that Browns top 5 defense pretty much swarmed Brock Purdy and the offense, and that 49ers defense that has been so good so far, they allowed a good amount of critical plays. Not like, like they allowed a big play every play, but a good amount of critical plays to third-string quarterback PJ Walker, who was starting for the injured Deshaun Watson. And pretty much, yeah, they let them stay in the game for all that much. But despite all that, you know, the Niners still had a chance to win the game. Brock Purdy put on a good 2-minute drill drive. But unfortunately, Jake Moody, the rookie kicker, missed the game winner 41 yards out, pushed it a little to the right, and the 49ers lost 19-17. But hey, you live and you learn, I guess. For the Minnesota Vikings, meanwhile, their season has been pretty much the reverse effect of last season so far. Last season was a lot of close games, a lot of close wins, but this season so far has been the reverse of that. A lot of close losses. And mainly that has to do with a lot of bad luck, with turnovers, bad offense. And this past week against the Chicago Bears, I mean, sure, they got a win, but it was pretty much the same old story for the Minnesota Vikings. A lot of turnovers, and you had to pretty much win ugly against even a very bad Bears team, who lost their starting quarterback Justin Fields to a dislocated thumb. So they still managed to win ugly, 19-13, with a scoop and score fumble touchdown from Jordan Hicks, the linebacker. That was pretty much the difference maker in that game. So for both of these teams, for the 49ers, starting first, yeah, they need to win this game to try and bounce back and also keep their hold for now on the number 1 seed. because, Philly's right behind them, and so is the Detroit Lions. But more importantly, Brock Purdy, he also has to have a good game as well. And so is that offensive line. And for the Vikings, they got to find a way to turn this season around, at least if they want to have a little bit of a chance. Kirk Cousins is not having a bad year, but the problem is, it's just like I said, there's not really much else going on around that offense. The running game is really struggling. Offensive line, solid. The receiving game took a big hit, but I'll get into that in a bit. But yeah, they're just overall having a lot of bad luck so far if you're the Minnesota Vikings. So looking at the injury report for this week for both of these teams, for the 49ers, so prior to week 6, they have been relatively unscathed, which was good news for them. But unfortunately, coming out of week 6, they suffered 3 key injuries. So the injury luck did unfortunately not come to pass, because in that game in Cleveland, they suffered 3 key injuries that affected them in that loss, which was to Deebo Samuel, Trent Williams, and Christian McCaffrey. But good news for the 49ers is that they all avoided major long-term injuries. In the case of Deebo Samuel, the shoulder injury, nothing serious. Trent Williams, an ankle sprain, and then Christian McCaffrey, oblique injury. So it's just a pain tolerance issue. So looking at their practice reports so far, none of them had practice. McCaffrey was doing work on the side, and at the time I'm recording this, it seems like at least one of the 3 could be available to play on Monday night. But if I'm the 49ers, unless either really want to play in this game and take that risk, I would hold them off. Especially Trent Williams, because he's playing on turf with that high ankle sprain, and that carries a big risk. So I would hold them off. Test your depth. This is a good opportunity to do so, especially at the running back position. So yeah, hold these guys off. And I know there's another big game, not to overlook the Vikings coming up once the 49ers come home in week 8 against the Cincinnati Bengals, who are coming off their bye. But the Niners will have their bye of their own the week after the Bengals. They have their bye week in 2 weeks. So that gives all 3 of these guys extra time to heal. So by the time they come back for week 10, these guys hopefully will be ready to go. It's all about playing the long game as they get into that most important stretch of the season, which is trying to secure a playoff spot, trying to secure the division title, maybe even get the number 1 seed in the NFC. So health is key, especially when we get to that deep stretch of the season for the 49ers. Meanwhile, for the Minnesota Vikings, receiver Justin Jefferson, going back to the receiving game, which took a big hit. Justin Jefferson, their top receiver, was put on injured reserve a week ago with the hamstring injury, so this is going to be his second game missed. He missed the Chicago game, obviously, but yeah, a big hit to that receiving game. So there's going to be a lot of Jordan Addison and KJ Osborne, and yeah, those 2 guys. Kirk Cousins didn't really go to all that much in that Chicago game, so he went to a lot more of TJ Hawkinson, the tight end. So I'm not sure if he's going to try to target Addison or KJ Osborne more, but we will see. Either way, they won't have Justin Jefferson until at least after the 4th game that he was on injured reserve. And the edge rusher Marcus Davenport was placed on injured reserve after the Chicago Bears game with the high left ankle sprain. So a big hit to the Vikings pass rush. So Danielle Hunter is going to need some help. He is definitely going to need some help in that defensive front. So more on that in a bit. So speaking of Danielle Hunter, there have been questions about whether he's going to be put on the trading block. So it's going to be interesting if the Vikings lose this game. Are they going to be sellers at the deadline? Are they going to move off Danielle Hunter to a team that could use him for a playoff push, or just maybe offload his contract? I don't know. So looking at the teams to victory for both of these teams, for the 49ers, I mean, it's pretty clear and obvious where they really struggled in that game, and that was the offensive line. They have to protect Brock Purdy against that 49ers defensive front. That offensive line for the 49ers really struggled against Cleveland. I mean, again, Cleveland's defensive front with Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith, and Dalvin Tomlinson, it was really tough. Yeah, they are actually pretty legit. But still, regardless of whatever defensive front you play, you have to protect your quarterback. And the 49ers offensive line really struggled and continued to struggle after Trent Williams had the ankle sprain. So Minnesota's front four, it's not as tough as Cleveland's, but the thing that they do the most is blitz the quarterback. They blitz at the quarterback, and if the 49ers can't even defend that and Brock Purdy cannot recognize the blitz coming, they're in a lot of trouble. And then staying on the offense for this week, if Christian McCaffrey doesn't play, the theme of this week is trust. You got to trust your depth. Kyle Shanahan has to trust his running backs. There's no need for Kyle to abandon the run necessarily, or even the occasional running back receiving option if McCaffrey's out, because Jordan Mason, he's been a nice, reliable backup to Christian McCaffrey. And you don't need to necessarily run Mason into the ground like you did to Christian McCaffrey, but you have to rotate in between Jordan Mason, and it doesn't hurt to try out Tyron Davis-Price in this game if McCaffrey's out, because you have to try out your depth. This is the time. This is a game where you have to trust your depth. So if Christian McCaffrey doesn't play, Kyle Shanahan has to have some trust in his running backs that are available. And then for the Minnesota Vikings, it's pretty simple. You have to protect the football. Minnesota has not done a great job at protecting that, be it fumbles or just even catching the balls that Kirk Cousins throws at them. Because, they're actually the worst team at doing both of that. So even though that the receiving core is doing a tad better, they still have to take care of the football. So once they go down, they have to have that football with them. That goes for Kirk Cousins too. So Kirk Cousins is not free of blame. So even at his stage of his career, he can't be careless with the football. He can't let defenders whack it out of his hands when his arm is stretched out like this, ready to throw. He has to be aware of where the pressure is still and get that ball out. You can't let that ball get out of your hands. So if they can protect the ball for once, they may just have a chance. And then defensively, be aggressive. Be aggressive. So even with Davenport's injury, the Vikings need to be relentless against what could be a very vulnerable 49ers offensive line, especially on the left if Trent Williams doesn't play. And, I'm hoping that, they keep Trent Williams healthy, But even then, if they want to show that the top blitzing team, which is a 50-50 coin flip, they're going to need other players besides Danielle Hunter to step up if you're the Minnesota Vikings. Even if it's one of their weak points in the terms of the run defense, they're also going to have to find ways to shut down the run, especially if Christian McCaffrey is going to be out on the other end. So if they can stop the run, then that's going to force head coach Kyle Shanahan to make Brock Purdy throw the ball more than he has to. And that opens up more pass rushing opportunities for your front four. So for the Vikings, if they can do both, you might just have a chance. So overall, I'm not going to guarantee anything for the 49ers other than a win over Monday Night Raw, over the Judgment Lane, and the stale and repetitive man, Becky Lynch. But other than that, there are no guarantees for this week against the Minnesota Vikings because, well, we learned that lesson. I mean, I wasn't guaranteeing anything against Cleveland, but damn. They all I do need to do though is that I'm hoping that they bounce back. They have to have a better performance this week against the Vikings because if they do poorly again, there are definitely going to be some eyebrows raised after this game, especially with another big game coming up at home against the Cincinnati Bengals. But first things first, you got to take care of business in Minnesota on Monday night. Please don't overlook them. So anyway, that is it for my preview for this game against the Minnesota Vikings. I know it's a little bit of a day late than usual, but hey, it's a Monday night game, so yeah, we can leave it a little day later than usual for my preview. But yeah, that is it for this preview for Week 7 for my 49ers going up against the Minnesota Vikings. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think is going to happen between the Niners and the Vikings in the comments below? And as usual, keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of sports. And until next time, peace out.